Alright guys, I'm going to do a steering wheel walkthrough. I checked out YouTube. There's a bunch of videos from a bunch of guys that are like, I'm not really sure how this fits or why this is like this. I just kind of put it together. So maybe I don't know. Maybe I'm doing it wrong, but I'd like my explanation. I've changed, I don't even know how many of these over the years. But yeah, upgrading your steering wheel is at least on my like top 10 improvements list when I get a vehicle. So I'm in a 1970 GMC it's a K5 because it has the 4 on the floor right there, 4-wheel drive. So yeah, basically the GT or the Grant GT adapter that comes with this, at least the one that I've got a little bit of an offset on the steering wheel. So what I was looking for to kind of finish off this look required a little bit of adjustment. So basically what I had to do, because I need a little bit of side to side action to get this to line up, because it wasn't matching the whole setup on the steering wheel. So that's the hole right there, and because that's some high carbon stainless steel, so you're not drilling through that. So I just upsized the drill bit and came over and just kind of reamed it out so I get a little bit of play. So what we're going to do is we're going to thread this through here. I should talk really quick. So originally, this is the contact ring. So on the back side it has this little brass fitting, and you have a little copper spring-loaded diode contact point here that's going to make contact there. So what came with this was another spring-loaded piece, and it stuck out, if we can see it. So this had a spring-loaded piece in it, and it stuck out here for the stock steering wheel. So you can actually take like your pocket knife or something and open up these tabs, and you can slide the brass ring off of here, and you can take the lead that comes with the Grant GT, and Grant's kind of like the standard, so a lot of these steering wheels are all set up the same. So it comes with this lead that's going to make a contact point on this guy. But in the 60s and 70s, they didn't have this. So they set it up a little bit different, so you got to make some modifications. So take that ring off, take your little lead. I cut it's got a little brass fitting that's supposed to be spring loaded that kind of sticks out. I actually opened it up, turned it around backward, and crimped it back on the wire. Or you can just kind of cut the tip off so that it sits flat here. It's got like a lip around it so that it doesn't just fall through here, and there's a spring inside of there. So if you can figure out that part, once you get this guy on here, it's going to rotate wherever you want it because it doesn't connect to the splines. So then we're going to take this guy. This guy's a little bit more important. So you can see my top A and my top B didn't exactly fit where I needed it to match up with that steering wheel. So I know from trying this out, my top A is actually pointed down here and top B is there, and that's the configuration I need for these three matching up with that on the orientation of this particular steering wheel. Okay, so that's pushed all the way onto the splines, so we should be good there. So the next thing is matching up our little cover plate. So you can see that's going to fit on there nicely, just like that. So the next thing is going to be our steering wheel. We're going to thread it through there. And now we have these little screw posts. Now that lip right there is going to make contact on the steering wheel, and it's going to give a little spacer. So I'm going to use these as placeholders at first. So we're going to get the spots lined up that we want. And I'm just going to pop in. This is really hard to do one-handed. I'm just going to pop it in so that it holds the placement of the steering wheel. We're going to do that on at least 2 of them. I like to go top and bottom. So it's just going to kind of hold our place. I'm just going finger tight. Yeah. So that gets our placement. So I am not putting this guy on yet. And I'll show you why. So we've got that lined up so that I can come in with this guy. Now in the instructions that comes with the steering wheel, they never show the washer. They just have the nut going directly on the post. It's been like that for like 30 years. They never redo the schematic. I wish they would, but they never do. So we're going to get that guy kind of lined up here. I got a lot of time to play with this truck during this COVID-19 lockdown stuff, which hasn't been the worst thing in the world. Okay, so I'm just going kind of finger tight, getting it on there. So that should keep everything from moving, because I really need the steering wheel to kind of stay in place for the next part. Now, you probably want the battery disconnected because you're about to make a lot of contact with the horn to raw steel. You can hear my relay collapsing. It's because the battery that I've got in here right now is connected, but it's down to about 2 volts right now. So it works okay. So you want this guy facing like this because this is the contact surface that's going to make contact on here when you push the button. But when this guy, when the cap gets mounted to this, that's what's going to hold this, and the spring that's in between these is going to hold this away from the bare metal on the steering wheel. And when you push it, that's what's going to complete the circuit. Some people call it shorting it, but it's going to actually complete the circuit, and that's where you're going to get your honk. So just kind of be careful and make sure those are still lined up. And this guy has this little oblong hole here, the same thing that was on that cover. So we're going to match it in the same spot there. Don't connect that lead up yet, though, unless you've got the battery disconnected, and then I guess go ahead. So I think I already touched on this, but this has a slide surface here that's going to allow this to travel. That's the whole point. Yeah, these 3 bolts aren't actually what's holding your steering wheel on. That's what's holding your steering wheel on. These are just providing travel for the horn switch. I don't know if that guy's threaded right. You might have to wiggle your steering wheel just a little bit to get it just right. It probably helps if you're using 2 hands and not trying to hold a phone on video with your left hand. Gives us a little bit of space. Okay. And then you can take this guy and you can chase it around the nut, around this slide post, to that guy, and then so our spring is going to sit right in here, and then we can attach our cap onto this, and that will hold it away. So you can, let's see if we can actually get it. So you see it's holding it away. When we push it, you can hear it making contact. So that's how that works. So if that makes sense. So spring there is going to push this away. It's going to hold it against the bottom side of those bolts. So we're going to tighten up those bolts, and then they'll be in place and solid. And then when you attach that cap, there's little notches around this, and they correspond with little nipples that are on the inside of the cap. So those will fit there, and then you kind of hold this in place from the underside with your fingers, which I will need both hands to do. So you get it there, and then you're just going to rotate it to a spot where this silicone plate is going to give you a little bit of resistance as it slides there, because it's a nice tight fit. So you're going to get it through there just a little bit, and I like to turn it about a 1/2 inch, maybe 3/4 of an inch, and that'll give you enough resistance that it'll hold it in place. So that's kind of how that works. Okay, so I put it on pause, and I tightened up these guys, and I tightened up my center post, throw a socket on there. It's what is it? I guess I used a 19 millimeter, but you could use whatever the proper size for that is. It looks like it's about 3/4. So yeah, tighten those up. Once you tighten this up, that post or the threading sticks through a little bit more, so it gives you a nice spot so this spring doesn't slip off of there. So it gives you some holding. Okay, so let me put the other part on. Now that that's tightened up, we should be good to go. All right, we get that in there. So the posts that are on there, you don't need to, like really hold it or grip it from under there. The posts will hold it in place. It's mostly just getting that lined up. You got to get like a finger, in there sometimes, so you can kind of hold the spring in place, so that you can kind of just carefully slip it out so nothing slides. And then once you get those divots there, give it a turn, and it's pretty much locked in place now. So there we go. Our steering wheel is all nice and tight. So if my battery were up to 12 volts, it would be honking right now, but this is the low battery actually just happens to work perfectly for demonstration, so you can just hear that little click without pissing off the neighbors. Awesome. All right, that's kind of how you do it.